So you're new to Genshin, you do a 10 pull on the current banner, and while you don't get a 5-star, you do get 4-star Beidou. Now, what do you get with Beidou besides the Captain of the Crux and Ningguang's special friend? Well, Beidou is a Claymore-wielding Electro user who uses her burst to allow for a lot of Electro reactions. And in this beginner guide, we're going to talk about everything you need to know to play Beidou as a beginner. Okay, so just like in every single one of my beginner guide videos, let's talk about my Beidou, so that way if you're a beginner and you're not reaching the same numbers, it might just be because of levels and things like that. So my Beidou is level 50. She is ascended to go up to level 60, but she is still only level 50. For a weapon, I do have Wolf's Gravestone on her during this artifact set. I do actually have a 4-piece Exile. She is C3, so whenever we talk about her burst will produce a shield. Whereas if you have her at Constellation 0, like if you just pulled her, her burst will not make that shield. Her talents are 2, 5, and 1, that 5 being there because of C3. So since we're here, let's go ahead and talk about beginner artifacts. Now, because Beidou's true strength lies in her burst, having the Exile set is going to be really, really good for that energy recharge. But if you don't want to use her with this 4-piece to get energy for your other characters, then instead of doing a 4-piece Exile, you can do a 2-piece Exile with like a 2-piece Instructor set to get her Elemental Mastery up, depending on the reactions that you want Beidou to be doing. But for this video, we're just going to keep her with the 4-piece Exile. Now, as far as main stats and substats go on your artifacts, having attack percent, having energy recharge, crit rate, crit damage, kind of the standard for your substats is preferable, but as a beginner, you may not have that option. So right here, we got attack percent and crit rate on this feather. Attack percent on Sands is going to be really your best option. You would preferably have an electro damage bonus here. I don't have an electro damage bonus goblet at all, actually, unfortunately, crazy enough. And then for Circlet, crit rate, crit damage, again, kind of standard stuff, whichever one you're needing. Okay, so for a 3-star weapon, you have a couple different options, again, depending on what kind of reaction you're going to be doing with her. If you're going to be focusing on Electrocharge or Overload, which is Electro and Hydro for Electrocharge and Electro and Pyro for Overload, getting her EM up is going to be more important. That's when you would also be running a 2-piece Exile and a 2-piece Instructor set. So the secondary effect of this weapon also increases damage against opponents afflicted by Pyro or Electro. So this can be really, really good for Electrocharge. Even later game when you're much higher AR, this weapon is a great thing to have if you want Elemental Mastery on a Claymore user. Skyrider Greatsword is going to give you a physical damage bonus. You're really using Beidou for an on-field isn't going to be her best utility, but if you do want to use her, this is not a bad option. Of course, you do have the Debate Club, which just gets up straight attack percent, and then you also do get the buff of after using a skill on hit, normal and charge attacks deal an additional damage equal to 120% of the attack. That can be good if you want to use her on field. I would probably say Debate Club over Skyrider Greatsword. White Iron Greatsword is not going to be too good because that's defense percent. That's really not what you want for her. And then Fair Shadow HP percent. Again, that's not really what you want for her. So if you're going to be running Beidou for reactions, Blood Tainted Greatsword, on-field damage, Debate Club. And you know what? For this, since we're mainly going to be causing Electrocharge reactions in this, I am going to go ahead and put the Blood Tainted Greatsword onto her. So her individual attacks are going to do less, but her Electrocharge damage is going to be much, much higher. And with that being said, I am actually going to run a 2-piece Exile and 2-piece Instructor because of the Electrocharge. Okay, so now we're going to talk about her normal, her charged attacks, her skill, and her burst. So first, her normal attacks, she just swings the sword, and it's a 4 set, I believe. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Her charge attack, she is just going to swing kind of berserk-like. Nothing too fancy there. using stamina, of course. Now for her skill. So her skill has a tap and a hold. If we just hit the tap, it's going to put Electro into her Claymore and swing it in a circle, hitting enemies around her, applying Electro to them, and you can see that with the Electro symbol above their head. Now the hold will allow Beidou to actually take hits and then turn that into damage. So if we hold it, he's going to hit, and for a certain amount of time, she will kind of absorb damage. The more hits she takes, the more damage she will do. So you see that if she does not take any hits, she does very small damage, and the more hits that she takes, the more damage she does. Now, her hold does have an interesting thing, and that is with Ascension, you get something called Retribution. And countering attack with her skilled at a precise moment when the character is hit grants maximum damage bonus. So you don't have to try and get hit multiple times. You can just immediately go to the strongest. So just like that, as soon as he threw that, I hit the skill. It timed it just right, and it did the maximum damage on the hit back. So we're going to try it again. Just like that. You have to time it just right to get that. If not, you have to let it build up from being hit multiple times. So now we're going to talk about her burst. Now her burst is going to do an Electro AoE around her. And now every single time a normal or charged attack hits an enemy, you see it is applying Electro to them. That's what those purple numbers are. Now again, my Beidou is C3, so whenever we use her burst, she does get that shield, which will not happen at C0. So with Beidou's burst, if you use it and swap it to another character, it still does the Electro damage, which is what I mean by she is really good at off-field Electro application. It doesn't have to be her on the field. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a beginner-friendly party with Beidou. And we're going to talk about the 4 characters you're given for free, as well as including Xiangling, Kale, and Barbara, because you get them for free from the Abyss and from finishing the Archon quest in Mondstadt. So my Beidou currently has the Blood-Tainted Greatsword, meaning that she has Elemental Mastery. Electrocharge is a reaction that does more damage with higher Elemental Mastery. So we've got to have some Hydro on this team. So we are going to get Barbara. Now another reaction that is heavily dependent on Elemental Mastery is Overload. So let's grab Xiangling, because Xiangling's burst can be really good with Beidou's burst. And for the last set, we would have Animo Traveler. As you can see here, my Traveler is set up for Dendro. So I'm just going to grab Venti just to have an Animo character. This could be Animo Traveler to swirl and get more reactions. So I'm not going to be using Venti a ton except for just to swirl elements around, which again would be the Animo Traveler. So we want to get Hydro. We want to use Beidou's skill to get some Electrocharge going on. Allow that Electrocharge to kind of jump between enemies. Applying Hydro again to let it kind of spread around. And we want to get Beidou's burst up. So with Beidou's burst, we definitely want to have Barbara's skill. We're going to use Beidou's burst, Xiangling's burst, go back to Beidou, and just start swinging. Applying Hydro, applying Electro, letting Xiangling overload. So we want to keep as many elements kind of going around as possible, so that way we've got as many reactions going on. So again, once we have Zhangling's burst up, we're going to be using it, Beidou, her burst, and then just start attacking. Get those overload reactions going. That's what we want. To be doing damage that way. Applying Hydro as well. Get some Electro Charge reactions going around. That is what we want. That's how we're going to be doing our damage, is with reactions. So with a team like that, we would be using Animo Traveler to spread the Hydro around. We have a really good amount of Electro. We have a really good amount of Pyro. We don't have a ton of good Hydro. So that's why we would be using the Animo Traveler for that. If you did have a different or better Hydro applicator, absolutely use them. You would need a healer, which Barber kind of doubles as, but depending on what other characters you have, this is just an example of the free characters that you are guaranteed to have, of course, except for Venti, that would be Animo Traveler. I just know that someone's going to say something about that. So that would be kind of the beginner-friendly party. Now, of course, you could do several different team compositions, many different characters, and still have Beidou be doing a ton of damage like she was doing. That was just an example and kind of what you need to be thinking about whenever you're building your teams. You could do an aggravate team with Kale. You could do all kinds of different stuff. The team that I did, I think, is just the most beginner-friendly. And with that being said, Kale has green hair, Kuki has green hair, I have green hair that needs to be re-dyed, and that is the end of this Beidou beginner guide video. If you enjoyed it or got something out of it, please like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And I do make shorter versions of these on TikTok, so if you're on TikTok, the link to that is in the description down below. I will see you in the next video.